Lying to him is like standing naked in an interrogation room, pointless and humiliating. I don't know that yet when the morning starts. I only know the fluorescent lights are buzzing like hornets, my coffee is the color of regret, and the Washington field office has exactly 3 shades of gray, wall gray, floor gray, and my boss's tie. Agent Jordan, assistant special agent in charge, Weber says, lips thin as a paper cut. You've got point on the homicides? He slides the folder across the table. 5 victims. 5 weeks. Each with a neat, grotesque signature the press hasn't guessed yet. No physical connection. No motive that survives sunlight. I flex my jaw until the click in it pops back into place. The air tastes like old toner. Weber adds, almost casually, you'll have a partner. I work better alone, I say, because some habits survive even the worst fires. Not this time. He looks over my shoulder. Agent Darius. I turn, expecting a transfer from Counter Intel or HRT. What I get is a man who could have stepped out of a tastefully ominous advertisement for bespoke funerals. Tall, immaculate black suit that fits like it was poured on. His expression is both polite and detached, like he's a guest star on my life for exactly 1 episode. When the light shifts, something in his eyes flashes. Gold. Or maybe I'm sleep-deprived. Jordan, Weber says. Darius specializes in interviews. Interviews, I repeat. That's adorable. I specialize in finding people who don't want to be found. Then you'll get along, Weber says, which is managerial for please don't make me beg. We're barely past the handshake when Darius says, very calmly before we begin, I'm a demon of truth. I stare. Of course you are. I lift my cold coffee like a toast. And I'm the tooth fairy of forensics. People often joke, he says, unoffended. They stop eventually. Weber rubs his temple. You were informed he's unique. Unique is a tattoo on the lower back of every disaster, I mutter, and flip open the case file. Fine. Demon. Truth. We'll see if your pitch works on suspects. It's not a pitch, he says. It's nature. I don't dignify that. I shoulder the file and lead us down the corridor, past frosted glass and tired agents running on vending machine calories. Darius walks beside me with a step that doesn't quite match human rhythm. Too smooth, too certain. I tell myself it's confidence. I tell myself a lot of things. Our witness is waiting in interview 2, a motel clerk named Reggie who smells faintly of bleach and fear. He's already sweating, eyes pinballing between me and the audio recorder like we're about to tax his soul. Relax, Reggie, I say, sliding into the chair. My voice goes low and even, the one that made Marine recruits stop talking and start listening. You called us. You want to help. Yeah, he says, scratching his neck. I mean, yeah, I do. Darius sits to my right, hands folded. He doesn't take notes. He doesn't need the pretense. I start clean. Tell me again about the guest in room 17. What time did he check in? Reggie wets his lips. Late. Like 11-ish. 11:27, Darius says. I shoot him a look. He's watching Reggie, not me. Your eyes went left, he explains mildly. People glance left when they approximate. It was not approximation. It was memory you didn't want to share. I lean back. We'll confirm with the log. Reggie's mouth works. I gotta, breathe, I say. Then, talk. He breathes. He talks. He stumbles. He improvises. He says the guest was quiet, paid cash, no luggage. I watch his hands, his posture, the tremor in his knee. It's a mess of nerves, which is normal. What isn't normal is how every time he drifts an inch off truth, Darius. His head tilts, just slightly, like he hears a frequency no one else does. Finally, Darius speaks, still gentle. You saw blood on his cuff. Reggie flinches so hard the chair squeals. No, what? No, man, Red-brown, Darius continues, as if reading from a teleprompter only he can see. Not fresh, oxidized. You were going to ask if he needed a different room, but he smiled with only his top teeth and you lost your nerve. I feel the room shift, like someone opened a door and Winter walked in. My heart gives a single mule kick. How could you know that? Reggie whispers. Because you just told me, Darius says. I let the silence stretch until it tightens. Then I lean forward, forearms on the table. Reggie. No one here is your enemy, but every lie costs us time, and time is how people die. He swallows, Adam's apple zigzagging. Okay. He asked for ice, twice. He had a limp right side, and when he signed, he used the name John A with a dot. Who puts a dot after A? Like he wanted me to remember it. Good. Something we can hold. I keep my face smooth, even as my pulse evens out into the hard, steady drum of a lead. What else? Reggie squeezes his eyes shut. He smelled like metal and something sweet, not cologne. Copper and lilies, Darius says quietly. I turn my head. His eyes look normal now, brown, not gold, but the hair at the back of my neck lifts anyway. After we release Reggie, I step into the hall with Darius. The buzz of the lights feels louder. All right, I say. Explain. He considers. Most lies are small. People wrap their day in them and hope no one notices. But when a lie touches violence, it stinks. To me, it's overwhelming. He taps his nose, amused at himself. You could call it a scent. You smelled lilies, I say. I smelled grief masquerading as politeness. He smiles, very slightly. Humans bring flowers to apologize for cruelty. I don't laugh. I don't run either. I just stand there, feeling the ground shift half an inch off what I know. My training says categorize, control, contain. My instincts say, you just partnered with something that does not fit any manual. Darius, I ask, keeping my voice even, are you actually a demon? He holds my gaze. For a heartbeat, the hallway light flickers. When it steadies, something gold reflects in his irises. Just a thread, just enough. Yes, he says. And you, Agent Jordan, are very tired, very stubborn, and very honest. It's why they gave me to you. Gave? I echo. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Loaned. We'll have to discuss the return policy. I should tell him to cut the theatrics. I should tell Weber I need a real agent, not a metaphor. But my hands remember the way Reggie broke the moment Darius spoke, and my bones remember the cold that moved through the room. Truth has a temperature, and I just stood in a draft. Fine, I say. Demon or not, you're useful. Don't make me regret it. You won't, he says. Unless you lie. I sip my dead coffee, grimace, and start walking. Then you're safe. I only lie to myself. Behind me, his footsteps fall in that too smooth rhythm. That, he says softly, is everyone's favorite lie. The motel smelled like mildew and broken promises. Peeling wallpaper, a soda machine coughing in the corner, and a clerk at the desk who barely looked up. From his lottery ticket, yeah, this was the kind of place where killers could vanish between the stains. Room 12 was our target. A man named Carter Hensley, with just enough priors for assault to make him slippery, had checked in last night. A person of interest, according to the paperwork. According to my gut, a waste of time. According to Darius? Well, he stood outside the door like he already knew the ending. You hear that? He asked. Hear what? The cadence. He's rehearsing. I frowned. Through a door? Through lies, he corrected, and knocked. Hensley opened with the speed of someone who hadn't been sleeping. Greasy hair, twitchy hands, pupils too wide. Agents, he said, plastering on a smile. I didn't do anything. That's a promising opener, I muttered. We stepped inside. The room was a catalog of sad furniture and cheaper liquor. Empty bottles on the nightstand, ash burns in the carpet. I took the chair, let Darius stand. He didn't need props. Where were you between 8 and midnight last Thursday? I asked. Here, Hensley said instantly. Too instantly. Darius tilted his head, slow, deliberate. No, Hensley bristled. I said, you were somewhere louder, Darius interrupted. His voice wasn't sharp, just final, like a door closing. You're imagining the sound even now, neon buzzing, a jukebox that skips every third track. A bar. My pen stilled. Hensley's mouth fell open, then clamped shut. I don't know what. You ordered whiskey. Neat. You lied to the bartender about your job, said you worked in sales. She didn't believe you either. The suspect's face cracked like glass under pressure. How the hell could you? Because truth resists disguise, Darius said simply. The silence that followed was thicker than the smoke ground into the curtains. My pulse ticked in my throat. This wasn't interrogation. This was autopsy. He peeled Hensley's lies off him like damp clothes, until the man shrank 2 sizes in the chair. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt cold. Before I could press further, the window shattered. The first bullet buried itself in the wall above my head. Instinct yanked me sideways, gun out, shouting before thought caught up. FBI, drop. The hallway erupted. Boots, shouts, the crack of suppressed fire. Darius moved before I did. One hand shoved me down behind the bed, the other sweeping the lamp off the nightstand. The bulb burst, plunging us into jagged shadows. "They'll flank left," he said calmly, like reading a grocery list. "How do you—" Because they just lied to each other about who goes first. Sure enough, 2 men spilled through the doorway. Black hoodies, pistols raised. I fired once, clipped the frame. Darius was already moving, too fast, too smooth. He caught the wrist of the first shooter, twisted, disarmed. A second shot went wide as he drove the man into the wall. The other lunged at me. Training took over. I squeezed off 2 rounds. He stumbled back, alive but screaming. Darius was a shadow cutting through shadows, never where the bullets landed. Every time one of them shifted, every feint, every false start, he knew it. He was there before they were. "Down," he barked. I dropped without question. A shot sang over me. He answered with a kick that sent a gun skittering under the dresser. And then, it was over. The survivors bolted down the hall, shoes pounding the filthy carpet. I started after them, but Darius caught my arm. His grip was iron, unshakable. "They weren't here to kill," he said. His chest barely rose, like the fight hadn't even winded him. "They were here to warn." "Warn who?" I demanded. His eyes glowed faint gold in the fractured light from the broken window. "You. That you're not ready for the truth you're chasing." The room was a wreck, glass everywhere. The suspect curled in the corner, muttering, "Oh God, oh God." My pulse hammered, the weight of adrenaline making my hands shake even as I holstered my weapon. I looked at Darius, at the calm curve of his mouth, the perfect line of his suit, now dusted with plaster. He'd just turned a firefight into choreography. And for the first time the thought struck me hard, dangerous, undeniable. He's not human. But God help me, right now, that might be exactly what I need. The bar smelled like fried onions and cheap scotch, which made it practically a second office for half the bureau. Agents came here to unwind, to complain about supervisors, to pretend the job didn't follow them into their bones. I didn't come here to unwind. I came here to corner the man, or demon, who'd turned a shootout into choreography this afternoon. Darius sat across from me in a booth, untouched glass of bourbon in front of him. He didn't look tired. He didn't look anything. Just unnervingly composed, like someone had hit pause on him while the rest of the world kept playing. "All right," I said, leaning on the table. "Enough games." "What the hell are you?" "I told you," he said. His voice was calm, not defensive. "A demon of truth." That's not an answer. That's a headline. His eyes caught the neon light in the window, glowing faintly gold again. "I cannot lie, Agent Jordan, ever. Not about my nature. Not about what I see. Not about you." I blinked. "About me? You are afraid of silence, but you hide it well. You are angry at your brother, but you would still cover for him. And you keep cold coffee on your desk because it gives you an excuse not to talk to people who wander in." I stared. My heart gave a treacherous jolt. "That's not truth. That's profiling." "It is truth," he said softly. "And it costs me something every time I hear it and don't speak it. To ignore a lie is like holding my breath. Painful. Eventually impossible." I wrapped my fingers around my glass of whiskey and knocked back half. It burned, which helped. "So what, you're cursed with honesty? You expect me to believe you can't lie about anything?" "Not a word," he said simply. I squinted at him, then smirked. "You realize women across America would call that the dream? The perfect husband for jealous wives. Never lies about working late, never lies about where he's been." His mouth curved, almost a smile. "It would be a short marriage. They would ask, 'Do I look good in this dress?' And I would tell them the thread is pulling near the seam and the color is less flattering than they hoped. I have seen relationships die for less." I snorted into my glass. Damn him. He was funny. But the warmth of that laugh faded fast, replaced by the reminder of why we were here. I pulled the case file from my bag, slapped it on the table. Pages slid, photographs spilling into the dim light. Back to reality. Hensley wasn't our guy, too small time. But look, these 5 victims, they all had cash-only businesses, laundromats, bars, pawn shops. Guess who they were paying protection money to? Darius leaned over the photos. His gaze sharpened, eyes flickering gold again. The DiBello syndicate. I raised my brows. You know them? I know their lies, he said. And I know when a killing isn't random. This isn't one man's work. It's an organization pruning its own branches. A chill rolled down my spine. I'd been thinking it, but hearing him say it out loud made it heavier. Bigger. So we're not hunting a serial killer, I said slowly. We're stepping into a mob war? He nodded once. And the lies around this city just grew louder. I shoved the files back into my bag, heart thudding. I wasn't sure if it was the whiskey or the truth making my pulse race. Great, I muttered. Serial killer was bad enough. Now I've got the mob, a crooked trail, and a partner who can smell lies like bad cologne. Better than smelling fear, Darius said. Trust me, I shot back, sliding out of the booth. You'll smell plenty of that too. He followed me out into the night, too smooth, too silent, too certain. And I couldn't shake the thought, I might have just made a deal with the devil, and worse. I was starting to like it. The Bureau's headquarters always smelled like copy paper and authority. The kind of place where walls don't just have ears, they have filing cabinets to back it up. I was halfway through my second stale coffee when Weber called us in. His office was immaculate, every pen lined up like soldiers on parade. Behind him, the Capitol skyline glared through spotless windows. It should have made me feel proud. Instead, it made me itch. He didn't waste time. Agent Jordan. The homicide case. It's being reassigned. The words hit harder than any bullet. Reassigned? We're days from connecting it to organized crime. Why would you pull it now? Weber's jaw tightened. Priorities shifted. Orders from upstairs. Drop it. Beside me, Darius shifted. He didn't even blink, just said, quiet and sharp, he's lying. My stomach lurched. I hissed out of the corner of my mouth. Not now. But Weber heard enough. Excuse me? Darius's gaze stayed steady. You're not following orders from upstairs. You're burying them. You don't want this case solved. The room froze. I could hear the hum of the fluorescent light, the tick of the cheap wall clock, my own pulse hammering in my ears. We're done here, Weber snapped. Hand over your files. No, I said before I could stop myself. Both men turned to me. Weber's eyes narrowed, the kind of look that could sandpaper a rookie into dust. Agent Jordan. That wasn't a request. My mouth was dry, but the words came anyway. With respect, sir, this doesn't add up. 5 victims, all tied to cash-heavy businesses, all linked to DiBello fronts, and now, suddenly, the case evaporates? That's not justice. That's politics. Weber stood. Not tall, but tall enough, with authority doing the heavy lifting. You're out of line. I stood too. No, I'm in line. The line that says we protect the people who can't protect themselves. If I'm wrong, prove it. If I'm right, then pulling this case makes you complicit. His expression cracked, just for a heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, I knew. Darius was right. You're suspended from field work, Weber said, voice cold steel. Effective immediately. Badge and gun. The words sliced. Everything I'd bled for, the identity stitched into my bones. Stripped with one sentence. I reached for my badge case, felt the weight of my Glock at my hip. My fingers trembled. Before I could move, Darius spoke, calm and absolute. You don't need his permission. Weber turned on him. You're a consultant. Stay in your lane. Darius's eyes burned faintly gold. Not enough to glow, just enough to unsettle. Truth doesn't have lanes, and neither does justice. The air thickened between us. For the first time in my career, I realized the Bureau wasn't a fortress of order. It was a machine. And machines don't care what they crush, as long as they keep turning. I clenched my fists. Fine, suspend me. But I'm not walking away. You want my files? They're in my head. Good luck deleting that. Weber's face went red. Get out. Both of you. We did. The hallway outside felt colder, emptier. Agents bustled past with folders and coffee cups, but no one looked at me. Like the second you fell, the system erased you. I exhaled, shoulders tight enough to snap. Congratulations, Darius. We're officially screwed. He walked beside me, hands in his pockets like we'd just left a boring movie. Not screwed. Free. Free? I barked a laugh. They just benched me. They'll bury this case, and maybe bury us if we push harder. He stopped, turning to face me fully. His voice was soft, but it cut like glass. Justice isn't in the papers they file, Jordan. It's in the people you save. Do you care about the system, or the lives it pretends to protect? The anger that had been buzzing under my skin cracked open. He was right, and it terrified me. I leaned back against the cold wall, staring up at the humming lights. So what, it's just us? 2 people against a mob, a corrupt chain of command, and God knows who else? His mouth curved, just slightly. Not 2 people. 1 agent. 1 demon. I shook my head, laughing bitterly. Great. Sounds like the start of a terrible joke. He leaned closer, his eyes catching the light again, golden threads in the brown. Then let's make it the kind that kills the audience. For the first time, I realized the line was gone. There was no bureau at my back. No net to catch me. Just me. And a partner who wasn't human. And for reasons I couldn't admit, that didn't feel like a curse. It felt like the only honest thing left. My brother's apartment smelled like stale beer and regret. The kind of place where curtains hadn't been opened in weeks, and the ashtray on the table looked like it was auditioning for a chimney. Charming, I muttered as I stepped inside. Hey, sis, Ryan said, grinning like nothing was wrong. He was barefoot, jeans hanging loose, a half-empty bottle in his hand. Didn't know the FBI makes house calls. Cut the crap, I snapped. I need help. People are dying, and the Bureau just pulled the plug on the case. You still know people who know things. Give me something. Ryan's grin tightened. I'm clean now. You know that. Next to me, Darius shifted. His voice was low, almost casual. Lie. I shot him a look, but he didn't look away from Ryan. His eyes narrowed, the faintest flicker of gold at the edges. Ryan bristled. Who the hell is this? My partner, I said. And he's not wrong. You're lying, Ryan. About being clean. About everything. Ryan slammed the bottle down, glass rattling. You don't get to walk in here and judge me. You left, remember? You became Agent Jordan, too good for your screw-up brother. That's not what this is about. My chest burned. This is about 5 bodies in 5 weeks, and every single one ties back to DiBello's syndicate. Don't tell me you don't know something. I don't, he said instantly. Too instantly. Lie, Darius said again, smooth as a knife. Ryan's face twisted. You got some kind of freak psychic running with you now? Not psychic, Darius murmured. Just honest. And you are not. You've been running errands for them, driving cash, carrying messages. You told yourself it was survival, but it was greed. Easier than going straight. The words cracked the air like a whip. My breath caught. Tell me that's not true, I said. My voice was smaller than I wanted it to be. Ryan's shoulders sagged. For a second, I saw the brother who used to sneak me candy from the corner store, who used to promise he'd always have my back. I didn't have a choice, Joe. They own this neighborhood. You think I could just say no? You always have a choice, I spat. And you chose them. The room went taut with silence. My hands curled into fists. I wanted to shake him. Scream at him. Rewind time. Darius broke the moment with 3 quiet words. They're already here. I blinked. What? Then the window shattered. The first bullet punched into the wall, spraying plaster. Ryan dove behind the couch, swearing. I dropped, pulling my Glock, firing toward the shadow at the window. The room erupted. Shouts in the hall, boots on the stairs, more gunfire. Move! Darius yanked me sideways just as the door splintered inward. 2 men in masks stormed in, guns up. Time fractured. I fired once, twice. Took one in the shoulder, sent him stumbling. The other turned his gun on me. Darius was faster. Too fast. He shoved me down, the shot tearing through the wall where my head had been. He slammed into the shooter, disarmed him with a twist so brutal it made my stomach turn. Behind you, I shouted. Another figure came through the back door. Darius spun, shielded me, and the crack of the gun was deafening in the small apartment. The smell of gunpowder and dust filled my nose. I crawled to cover, fired back, clipped the intruder's leg. He went down screaming. The firefight burned itself out in seconds that felt like hours. The surviving men retreated, dragging their wounded, curses echoing down the stairwell. Silence crashed down, broken only by Ryan's ragged breathing. And then I saw it. Blood spreading across Darius's side, staining his black suit. Darius. I scrambled to him, heart hammering. He was still standing, still steady, like pain was just another lie he refused to tell. "I'll live," he said, voice tight. "They wanted to scare you. Next time, they won't miss." I pressed my hand against the wound. Fury and terror tangling in my chest. "You shouldn't have." "I should." He cut me off. His gaze caught mine, unwavering, golden at the edges. "Because you're not done yet." Ryan emerged from behind the couch, pale and shaking. His eyes flicked from the blood on Darius's shirt to the rage on my face. "Joe, I swear I didn't know they'd come after you. I just thought. Lie," Darius breathed, weak but certain. The words sliced deeper than the gunfire. I stared at my brother, the weight of betrayal crashing down. The boy who used to swear he'd protect me had just put a target on my back. I wanted to scream, to cry, to walk away forever. But all I could do was hold pressure on my partner's wound and feel the cold fracture inside me widen. Blood, family, lies, and I couldn't tell which one hurt worse. The alley stank of wet brick and old oil. Washington liked to pretend it didn't have places like this, but every city had shadows if you looked hard enough. Tonight, I was knee-deep in them, trailing behind Darius as he led me toward a rusted-out warehouse with boarded windows and a roof that looked ready to cave. "Your guy works here?" I asked, adjusting the strap on my shoulder holster. "He prefers places the police forget," Darius replied. His voice was even, but the cut in his side, still bandaged from the last fight, made me itch with worry. "Convenient," I muttered. "Or a trap." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Inside, the warehouse was hollow, echoing with every footstep. A single lantern burned on a crate in the center, casting long, crooked shadows. The informant was already there. Stringy hair, nervous eyes, clothes that hung off him like he'd borrowed them from a bigger ghost. "Darius," the man said, wringing his hands. "You shouldn't have come." "Yet you asked me to," Darius replied. He didn't sit, didn't blink, just watched. The man licked his lips. "The DiBello crew. They're moving guns through the South Docks, tomorrow night. That's all I know, I swear." I leaned forward. "That's it? 5 dead, a city terrified, and all you've got is a shipping schedule?" He winced. "It's dangerous to say more. They watch me, they—" "Lie," Darius cut in, voice like the snap of dry wood. The informant's face drained. "No, You know more," Darius pressed. His eyes flickered gold, and I could feel the truth vibrating in the air like a live wire. "You've already sold part of it to someone else. That's why you're stalling." "Enough," I hissed, tugging at Darius's sleeve. "You're bleeding through your bandage. Let's take what we've got and move." But the knot in my gut wouldn't untangle. He was right too often, too exact. And then, the lantern blew out. The blast came a second later, an explosion from the back wall, heat and pressure hurling me against a stack of crates. Ears ringing, lungs burning, I scrambled for my gun. Shadows swarmed in through the smoke, silhouettes with weapons and masks. "Ambush," I shouted. Darius was already moving, intercepting the first attacker, twisting his arm until the gun clattered. But he was slower this time, wounded, his breath sharp with effort. Another man charged him with a knife, and for the first time, Darius faltered. I didn't. I fired, the shot echoing off rusted beams. The knife man dropped. I lunged, grabbed Darius by the collar, yanking him down as another volley of bullets chewed through the wall behind us. "Rooftop," I barked, dragging him toward the stairs bolted to the side of the warehouse. He stumbled, but kept pace. We climbed fast, boots pounding metal, gunfire chasing us upward. A masked man tried to cut us off at the landing. I slammed the butt of my Glock into his jaw and shoved him into the rail. He toppled, screaming into the dark. We burst onto the roof, moonlight painting broken shingles and rust. Shouts below, more men pouring in. Jump? I asked between ragged breaths. Far, Darius said, grimacing. You won't make it with me weighing. Shut up, I snapped. My arm went around his waist, hauling him against me. I don't leave partners. We ran. At the edge, I pushed us both off, legs screaming as we hit the next rooftop and rolled hard. Pain jarred through my ribs, but we were alive. Alive and moving. We scrambled across rooftops, vaulting chimneys, ducking under antennas. Darius stumbled once, twice, but I kept him upright. My muscles burned, my lungs seared, but I wasn't letting go. When we finally dropped into another alley 2 blocks away, I shoved him against the wall, panting. Still think I can't carry you? He stared at me, sweat streaking his temple, blood darkening his shirt. And for once, he didn't have a comeback. Just the faintest flicker of something I hadn't seen in him before. Respect. You shielded me, he said, voice rough. Yeah, well, I said, holstering my Glock. My hands shook, and not just from adrenaline. Don't get used to it. But the truth settled between us anyway. The balance had shifted. For the first time, I wasn't the one being saved. I was the shield. And he knew it. The motel room was the kind of place you'd forget even while standing in it. One flickering lamp, sheets with cigarette burns, carpet that smelled faintly of mold. Outside, a neon sign buzzed vacancy in half-dead letters. I kicked the door shut behind us and guided Darius onto the bed. He didn't protest, though his jaw tightened, a sheen of sweat cutting across his forehead. Blood seeped through the makeshift bandage on his side, staining his immaculate suit. Sit still, I ordered, dropping my bag onto the chair and ripping it open for the first aid kit. You're bleeding like you're auditioning for a crime scene photo. He tried for a smile, but it collapsed halfway. You exaggerate, I glared. You nearly collapsed on the roof. If that's exaggeration, I'd hate to see your definition of critical. He leaned back, exhaling through his nose. I've survived worse. Good for you. You won't survive me if you bleed out on my watch. I pressed gauze against the wound. He didn't flinch, didn't even blink, but I felt the tension ripple through him, taut as piano wire. Silence settled between us, broken only by the hiss of the neon outside and my own uneven breathing. Finally, I asked, why do you do it? Walk into traps, get yourself torn up. For what? His eyes, dark but threaded faintly with that unnatural gold, held mine. Because truth doesn't wait for permission. It must be spoken, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. I taped down the gauze, biting back the lump in my throat. You make it sound noble. But all I see is reckless. He tilted his head. To you, maybe. To me, it is survival. I told you before, I cannot lie. Not a word, not a thought I choose to share. Every falsehood around me presses in until I feel suffocated. Do you understand what that means, Jordan? I shook my head. Not really. It means I live surrounded by noise, he said, voice low. Everyone lies. To protect themselves, to protect others, to survive. Every time it burns against me, like acid on skin. And when I answer with truth, they fear me. They hate me. They call me monster, devil, freak. His gaze dropped to the blood soaking his shirt. Demons of truth are never welcomed, only used. The weight of his words pressed into me, heavier than the night. I thought of my own life, of the years I'd spent hiding pieces of myself, the lies I told daily just to keep functioning. And here was someone who couldn't lie, even to save himself. I didn't realize I was smiling until it hurt. What is it? He asked. You, I said, shaking my head. The big bad demon, terrifying enough to make criminals wet themselves. Whining like a kid who wasn't picked at recess. For a moment, I thought I'd gone too far. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. A rough, quiet sound, but real. And God help me, I laughed too. Really laughed. The kind that cracked something open inside. Something I'd buried under years of grit and silence. When it faded, he was watching me. Softer than I'd ever seen him. You're different, he said. You lie less than most, even to yourself. And when you do lie, you hate it. That honesty. It draws me. The words caught me off guard, snagging in my chest. I looked away, busying myself with the bandages, but his voice followed me like heat. Jordan, he said gently, I am pulled to you. I swallowed hard, pulse tripping. You're concussed, I muttered. That's the blood loss talking. No, he said, steady. That is the one thing I cannot excuse as anything else. It is truth. I froze. The air between us thickened. Electric. His face was inches from mine, eyes glowing faintly in the dim. My breath tangled with his. For the first time, I wanted to close that distance. And then the window cracked. Not from glass settling. From a silenced bullet. We both hit the floor as shards rained down. Figures spilled through the doorway. Shadows with guns raised. Company, I hissed, yanking my Glock free. Darius pushed himself up, slower than usual, his wound dragging him down. I shoved him behind the bed, my body moving before thought. For one heartbeat, the almost kiss still hung between us, burning in my chest. Then the firefight swallowed it whole. Whatever just happened between us, it wasn't gone. It was waiting in the dark. The docks always smelled like salt and diesel, a combination that clung to your lungs long after you left. Tonight the air was thicker, anticipation, danger, something raw humming under the floodlights. Darius and I crouched behind a stack of rusted shipping containers, the metal cold and damp under my palms. Beyond us stretched a patchwork of warehouses, cranes, and a single black SUV parked too neatly in the open. That's him, I whispered. Vincent DiBello. Head of the syndicate. Darius didn't move, his eyes sharp, glowing faintly gold in the shadows. And he's not alone. I followed his gaze. Men with rifles patrolled the dock, their steps careful, disciplined. This wasn't some ragtag crew, they were soldiers. Great, I muttered. I was hoping for a warm welcome. Darius's lips twitched. You lie. You were hoping for answers. Before I could retort, the SUV door opened, and out stepped a man I never expected to see. Weber. My boss. My mentor. The one who'd benched me. He walked toward DiBello like an old friend, shaking hands, smiling. My stomach dropped so hard I nearly gagged. No. No, no, no. Darius's voice was calm but iron. I told you. He never followed orders from above. He gave them. I wanted to rush in, to drag Weber into the light and demand how much of my career had been a lie. But Darius's hand clamped on my arm, steady and unyielding. Not yet. Watch. We did. Weber leaned in close to DiBello, murmuring something I couldn't hear. DiBello laughed, the kind of laugh that made your skin crawl. Then he snapped his fingers, and a group of men dragged someone out of the shadows. Ryan, my brother. Hands bound, face bruised, eyes darting in panic. The world narrowed to a tunnel. I barely heard my own breath. Weber spoke louder now, his voice carrying over the water. He's sloppy. He was supposed to be a runner, nothing more. But he killed a shop owner without permission. That brought heat. That brought me. The sound in my ears roared. Darius's eyes flickered toward me. Jordan. I have to move, I hissed, already rising. The first shot rang out before I could. Gunfire erupted. Tracers sparking against steel containers. We were spotted. Run, Darius shouted, dragging me into cover as bullets shredded the air where we'd been. We bolted between containers, boots clanging against steel walkways, shouts closing in around us. Men swarmed from every angle, their rifles spitting fire. I fired back, dropping 1, 2, but more came. This way. Darius yanked me toward a ladder bolted to a crane. We climbed, bullets sparking against the rungs. My arms screamed, but adrenaline pushed me higher. At the top, the dock stretched below. A maze of shadows and gunfire. They're everywhere, I panted. They're predictable, he said, calm even now. And predictability is a lie. He moved like smoke, firing clean, precise shots. 3 men fell before I even lined up my sights. But for every one that dropped, 2 more surged forward. We ran across the crane arm, leapt to a rooftop, rolled hard. Shots followed, glass exploding around us as we crashed through a skylight into the warehouse below. The air filled with the stink of gunpowder and the groan of metal. Stacks of crates loomed like towers. We weaved between them, trading fire, each step a heartbeat away from death. Then, through the chaos, I saw Ryan again. Shoved to his knees in the center of the floor, a pistol pressed to his head. Jordan? He shouted. His voice cracked, raw with terror. I didn't mean to. They made me do it. Lie. Darius said automatically, firing at a gunman closing in. But then his gaze sharpened. No. Part truth. What? I shouted over the gunfire. He pulled the trigger. But only because they told him if he didn't, they'd kill you. The words hit harder than any bullet. My knees nearly buckled. My brother, the coward the screw-up, had killed. But he'd done it with my name hanging over his head. Rage and grief tangled inside me. I raised my Glock, aiming at the man holding him. My finger tightened. And then I saw the muzzle flash aimed at me. Too late. The shot fired, white-hot lightning screaming toward me. I didn't move fast enough. But Darius did. He shoved me sideways, his body slamming into mine, absorbing the bullet meant for my heart. The impact knocked us both to the ground. My ears rang, vision swimming. Darius? I scrambled, hands pressing against his side. Blood soaked through my fingers, hot and slick. His breath came in sharp, shallow gasps. But his eyes, God, his eyes, still held mine. Truth, he rasped. I told you. I'd never let you fall. Gunfire still thundered around us. Ryan was screaming. The syndicate closed in, but all I could hear was the ragged breath of the demon who had just given me the one thing no one else ever had. Protection. And in that moment, under the floodlights and the chaos, I realized the truth I'd been running from. I couldn't lose him. Not now. Not ever. The docks were a graveyard of smoke and twisted steel. Crates burned low, the air thick with gunpowder and salt. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, but no uniforms were rushing in. Not for this mess. The system wasn't coming to clean up. It was coming to bury the evidence. I staggered through the wreckage, Glock still warm in my grip. My arms shook, not from weight, but from everything we'd just survived. Bodies littered the ground. Syndicate soldiers, Weber's men, even the bastards who'd tried to flank us at the pier. The DiBello syndicate had fallen in a storm of bullets and fire. And it had nearly cost me him. Darius! My voice cracked as I picked my way over splintered wood and broken glass. My chest squeezed tighter with every heartbeat of silence. Then he emerged from the haze, bloodied, pale, but standing. His suit was torn, his shoulder bandaged with strips of his own shirt. Somehow, impossibly, his steps were steady, like gravity bent differently for him. I exhaled so sharply it hurt. You idiot, I said, storming up to him. You jumped in front of a bullet. You nearly got yourself killed. You're welcome, he said, voice hoarse but threaded with that dry humor. I wanted to hit him. Instead, my hand pressed against his chest, over the spot where crimson had soaked through. His heart thudded steady beneath my palm. Relief burned behind my eyes, and I hated how much it showed. Don't do that again, I whispered. His gaze caught mine. In the firelight, his irises glimmered faint gold, sharp and vulnerable all at once. I can't promise that. Truth doesn't let me. Something inside me broke then, but not in the way I expected. Not the kind of break that destroys. The kind that makes room. Behind us, the sirens faded, replaced by silence heavy with unspoken things. I knew what the Bureau would say tomorrow, that we'd gone rogue, that evidence was inconclusive, that the case would vanish into locked drawers. Weber would be scrubbed clean, DiBello's death filed under unknown circumstances. We weren't heroes. We were liabilities. Jordan, Darius said quietly, reading my thoughts like an open page. They will not forgive this. I know. My throat was raw. We're off the board now. No shield, no badge, just targets. And still, he said, stepping closer, you don't lie to yourself about leaving me. I swallowed, the air between us trembling. No, I don't. Truth was terrifying. But for once, it didn't feel like chains. It felt like freedom. I don't remember who leaned in first. Maybe it didn't matter. 1 second there was distance, the next there wasn't. His lips found mine in the haze of smoke and ruin. A collision that was less delicate, more desperate. It wasn't a kiss stolen in the heat of adrenaline. It wasn't a mistake. It was truth, the first one I hadn't been afraid to say out loud. My hands gripped the torn edges of his jacket. His fingers brushed the back of my neck, steady despite the blood drying on his skin. For a moment, the chaos of the docks, the bodies, the betrayal, it all fell away. There was only this. Him and me. When we finally pulled apart, I was breathless, trembling. That was reckless, I said, forcing a crooked smile. Honest, he corrected softly. I laughed. The sound shaky, but real. Guess we're both off the board now. Outlaws, partners, whatever the hell this is. Truth, he said again, and I realized the word sounded different in his mouth now. Less like a burden, more like a vow. We stood there amid the wreckage, the world already sharpening its knives against us. But for the first time, I didn't feel alone. For the first time, I trusted someone completely. And that truth was worth every bullet. The office was small, cheap, and smelled faintly of fresh paint covering older sins. The kind of place where no one would look twice at the names on the door, mostly because there wasn't one. Just a battered brass plate from the last tenant. Tax Services, LLC, half scratched away. I dropped a stack of folders onto the crooked desk and collapsed into the squeaky chair. It protested loudly, like even it doubted my career choices. This is it? I asked, raising a brow at the peeling wallpaper. Our headquarters? Darius stood in the doorway, carrying a box with one arm like it weighed nothing. His other arm was still wrapped, healing slow but steady. He surveyed the room with unnerving seriousness, as if the cracked ceiling tile was a holy artifact. It is sufficient, he said. We require only space to think and walls that do not listen. Good, I muttered, tossing my badge onto the desk. It landed with a dull thud. I didn't feel the sting I thought I would, because it's not like the bureau's sending us care packages. He set the box down and opened it. Inside were things that didn't belong in any FBI-issued kit. Burner phones, a map dotted with red marks, a bottle of bourbon. He pulled the bourbon out first, placed it neatly on the desk between us, like a declaration of partnership. Independent operators, he said, calm as ever. No chains, no masters, no lies. I smirked. You forgot the part where we're wanted, blacklisted, and broke. That too, he admitted, his mouth quirking. For the first time in weeks, I felt the tension uncoil in my chest. The weight of bureaucracy, betrayal, and firefights. None of it pressed quite as hard here. The office was ugly, yes, but it was ours. Rules, then, I said, grabbing a notepad. Every team needs rules. Darius leaned back against the wall, arms folded, studying me like I was more interesting than any case file. Rule 1? No getting shot on purpose, I said, scribbling it down. He arched a brow. That was not on purpose. Rule 2, I continued, ignoring him. We don't sell out family, or partners. I shot him a look. No exceptions. His eyes softened. Agreed. Rule 3, I said. We actually sleep in between cases. I'm not running on vending machine coffee anymore. You lie, he said smoothly. I rolled my eyes. Fine. Sometimes. But I want the option, damn it. He didn't argue further. Instead, he picked up the bourbon, poured 2 glasses into mismatched mugs from the box. He handed one to me, lifted his own in a mock toast. To survival. I clinked my mug against his. To new rules. The bourbon burned like honesty going down, harsh but clean. For a moment, there was no smoke, no sirens, no ghosts of the bureau chasing us. Just the hum of the old fridge in the corner, and the faint city sounds drifting in through the cracked window. I leaned back, watching him. He looked less like the immovable statue I'd first met, and more like a person. Still dangerous, still otherworldly, but not untouchable. You know, I said, smirking. I used to think I was cursed with the worst partners. Turns out, I just had to meet one from hell. Not hell, he corrected. Something adjacent. Close enough, I shot back. For a heartbeat, the silence between us stretched warm instead of tense. The kind of silence you don't need to fill, because it already says enough. Then he tilted his head, studying me with that relentless gaze. Jordan, he asked quietly, do you ever lie? The question landed heavier than it should have. My throat tightened, memories flashing, the half-truths to myself, the way I'd pretended the system would protect me, the denial about how much he mattered. I set down my mug, met his eyes, and let the corner of my mouth curve. Only about hating you. Something flickered in his expression. Relief, amusement, maybe both. He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, until I could feel the heat of him even in the cool room. Then that, he murmured, is my favorite lie. And this time, when he kissed me, there were no bullets, no broken glass, no smoke. Just us. The office around us might have been a dump, but to me, it felt like the start of something bigger than any badge could have given. Our own rules. Our own truth. And for once, the future didn't feel like a fight. It felt like freedom.